around this topic. What is it? Oh, there's no card in here. What is the actual topic?
You thought, because you have some of your books, maybe you could broaden and just speak about the whole book, the principle of it.
The principle of the book.
Yeah, rather than specific topics.
Let's see what it says. Very interesting reading your own book. It really is. Because we're not always, we're instruments. As teachers, we're instruments. So often we teach and then we have to listen or read what we just taught because it's often coming through us. And it's especially interesting if you're a writer to read something you wrote 10 years ago. A lot of these chapters I wrote 10 or 15 years ago. So I will read them as if someone else wrote them. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, he wrote many books, published about 80 books, and he said that I did not write these books. But that Krishna God was sitting on my shoulder telling me what to say. So, whenever we get inspiration, whenever we get knowledge, especially something we realized or epiphany, that's coming through us. It's coming to us and through us. So I'm going to read this because I'm interested in what I wrote because I don't remember everything. So this is from the introduction, and I think it'll kind of answer the question. And then I can discuss it. We are often good at knowing what to do, but bad at doing it. Living the wisdom of bhakti confronts this problem head on. Can you relate? You ever know what to do and not do it? Yes? Yeah. We were just discussing this morning that we promise ourselves that we'll do things that we don't do, or we don't do well. We're better at keeping promises to others than to ourselves. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, why? It's so interesting. Why would I keep a promise to you more often than I keep a promise to myself? I don't even value myself as much as I value you, but it just shows the challenge of understanding something but not being able to do it. This book doesn't focus just on learning something. Its main focus is on becoming something. Sure, you will find verses, quotations, and stories from scriptures here, and you will learn new things. But knowledge is not power. It is the implementation of knowledge that is power. Have you heard that? Knowledge is power? It's false. I'm one of the cliche busters. I will bust the golden rule right now. You know the golden rule? Do unto others as others would have, as you would have them do to you. That's such a bad rule, especially when cooking, because you will cook what you like. Because do unto others as you would like them to do to you. This is what I like to eat, so I feed you this. Doesn't mean you like it. So the golden rule is bogus. Do unto others what others would have you want done to them. Not what you want done to yourself. You know, I like loud, distorted rock and roll music, so when you come over I don't really like it, but for an example, you come to my house and I, turn my speakers up, because that's what I like, so I'm doing unto you, and you're a very yogic, calm, Om Shanti person, and this music is disturbing me. So, this is another false cliche that knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power. In and of itself, it's only information. Doesn't mean you'll do anything with it, right? This is how you can become good. It's knowledge. This is how you can become successful. It's knowledge. That's all it is. It's not power. It's only power if you use it. You agree? Yes? No? Maybe? Could be? I'll think about it. Yeah. Think of all the things you know that you don't implement. So it's not power. It's information. So my purpose is to help you better live the teachings of bhakti. If you read this book and do the exercises it recommends, you will find it easier to do what you may not be doing that you know you should be doing. You will also find it easier to change your life in general, to make it the way it should be, not the way it happens to be. So, this is a really important point. Is your life the way it should be? In other words, the way you'd want it to be? Or is it the way it just happens to be? Probably for most of us it's a little of both, right? It would be better if it was 100% the way we want it to be, wouldn't it? Rather than how it just happens to be. So, we all know what robots are, right? Robots have no independence, right? Because they're not human conscious beings, they're machines, right? And you program a robot and it can do certain things. And as we get more sophisticated with artificial intelligence, they'll be able to do more. Maybe someday you can have an amazing relationship with a robot, hold like intellectual conversations and so forth. But even in spite of that, in the ultimate end, it's a robot, which means it's doing what it's programmed to do. The bad news is we are much like robots because we're products of our programming, and often we do things we don't want to do because we're programmed. And if you study psychology, you will learn very clearly how this programming works. You can also learn how to change it. But in many ways, we're a little robotic. And we end up doing things that we regret, right? Because we are programmed to do them. So one of the ideas or objects of this book was to help us become more intentional rather than reactional. We tend to react to environments and to people rather than intentionally act the way we would like. If I get mad at you, you'll probably get mad, right? That's normal. And then later in the evening you might think, why did I get mad at him just because he was mad at me? Two wrongs don't make a right. So you regret what you did, but you acted due to the environment, the circumstance, the situation. So that's generally how we act. And then when we act that way, we generally regret it because we know it's not the way I really like to act. So if we can be in control of ourselves and not be robots, then life is much better. I was on the train in London 2 days ago. And so, you know what it's like on a train? Anyone have a phone I can borrow? I have to demonstrate. I'll give it back, don't worry. So I was on the train, and this is what it looked like. I mean, everybody looked like this, right? You've seen that, right? And they're just going through, pictures and rereading messages they've already read, and they're just like them. This way they don't have to deal with anybody, right? So I was looking at them, I was going, this is so interesting. It's like, okay, the human robot is now on their phone, and the manufacturers of these phones have got them acting exactly the way they want them. Isn't it? And someone's smoking. They go, the manufacturers of cigarettes have got them smoking. It's just where they want them to be. They're drinking beer. The manufacturers of beer have them exactly where they want to be. Isn't it? Or whatever. Go to the mall on Saturday. Everyone's buying something. Most people are buying something they don't need. Right? The latest fashion. Oh, I need the latest fashion. What are my friends going to think? And they think I'm a loser if I don't have the latest fashion. But you don't need it. So they're all at the mall shopping, spending money that they may not even have, putting it on a credit card. And the stores are very happy, right, that you're at the mall spending money. You are exactly where they want you to be. And then you go to work, 9 to 5, 9 to 10, 9 to 6, 9 to 7, 9 to 8, 9 to 9, whatever it is, 8 to 9, 7 to 10. So you can get money, so you can have not only necessities, but things you don't need. And that's exactly where they want you. And it's good to think like that. Because if we don't, we very easily can end up in a place we don't want to be. And so if we look at our lives, think about your life, and think about all the influences on you every day, right? When you poor girls walk by a store with magazines, about 85-90% of those magazines have pictures of beautiful women on the cover. And as one model said, I wish I was as beautiful. Now her name is, what's her name?
Katie Brooks. Cindy Crawford.
Cindy Crawford, yeah. Cindy Crawford is from San Diego, and I used to live there. And a friend of mine went to school with her, so she comes to mind. And Cindy Crawford said, there was a picture of her on a magazine, and she said, I wish I looked as good as Cindy Crawford. Mm-hmm. So you walk by these pictures of women that don't even look like that nobody can look like that, and that becomes the standard of, they go, I don't look like that. I feel bad. I need to look like that. So I have to do what I can to look like that and spend my money to look like that. And then still you won't look like that, and then get depressed that you don't look like that. So they've got you where they want you. And if you just think about it and detach from it, then they don't have you. Then you can take control of yourself. Once you understand how you're being controlled, you can take control of it. Otherwise, social engineering, cultural conditioning, it's not only this life, it's many lifetimes. So we're coming into this world already conditioned with certain thoughts and behaviors, and then getting further conditioned. And that's why sometimes it's so difficult to do what you know you should do, because you have this whole history of conditioning. Right? I was with a couple in India about 5 years ago. We're talking about marriage. And we're talking about divorce rate in India, which was very low, at least at that time. And I said, why is it low? You know, we have this joke. A guy gets married, and the grandmother says, she's going to make a really good first wife for him. Mm-hmm. Or the joke, you know, after the wedding, you save your wedding dress. Say, well, are you going to give it to your daughter? No, I might need it again. Mm-hmm. So I asked them, I said, why the divorce rate is so low in India? And they said, because from the time I was a little girl or I was a little boy, this seed was put in our head that marriage means once. You're married once. There's no such thing as twice. It doesn't exist. So it's a social conditioning. So it's much easier for them to stay together because that's what they grew up understanding. Marriage is once. We don't see that in our culture. Right? Especially if your parents are divorced and you've grown up seeing that. So that's quite normal. My generation, when I grew up, divorce was illegal. It became legal when I was growing up, maybe when I was 5 or something. And so that's when we were first seeing it. So I didn't grow up seeing divorce. I only had one friend in the whole neighborhood. You know, I'm talking thousands of people. So my social conditioning was that divorce just didn't exist. Now you grow up and it's very common. So if it doesn't work out, you get divorced. It's easier to think that way than think, well, let's work it out. Let's make it work. No, we'll just move on. So the social conditioning, it goes deep. And so this is just one example, but there's so many ways we're conditioned. And a lot of ways we don't even realize. It's just things you see. And when you know how much you learn by seeing. I just heard something today. I was with this devotee, his father said, Dad, I need some advice. He said, I don't tell you what to do. I said something like, I teach you through my actions. You learn through seeing me. I never told, in his whole life, he never told his son what to do. He told him by his actions. So the actions we see of people are teaching us, oh, this is right, this is wrong. Isn't it? And we don't realize we're being taught, and it's going in there. And then beliefs are developing, and beliefs become operating paradigms. And we don't even realize we just got taught something by seeing, either something good or something bad. Isn't it? So the hearing, having the knowledge and not being able to do, is because sometimes that knowledge is contradicting what we've been conditioned to believe. And so this other thing is operating, so we understand, Yeah, that's what I should do. But you have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of something else spinning around underneath. And that's why we tend to go back. Yes? Now, we talked about the poor girls. But let's talk about the poor guys who walk by the magazine store and see all the false, beautiful women with a false body. Do you know they sculpture? Did you know that? They sculpture the bodies. So, you look at their body, you go, I want to have a body like that. They don't have a body like that. That's been sculptured. Photoshop has done really bad things. So now the guys see that, and the guys think, oh, well, that's the standard. That's the standard of women. That's the kind of woman I want. So when they get married, they're not looking at all the things. They're not overlooking so many important things, and they're looking for that beautiful face and beautiful body. That becomes the standard. And then you have all the novels, the movies, and the music that talk about love, which is romantic love. And if anyone's been married for 5 or 10 years, they know that's it's not what it's about. It's about commitment and service and sacrifice. And their romantic love is about hormones. So that's all fed into us, and it's having a very devastating effect on relationships because we're looking for Hare Krishna. I won't say the full names of the deities because I already forgot. Shri Gauranitai ki jai. What's the name again?
Kodanitai Mayapushashi.
Kodanitai Mayapushashi. How could I forget such a name? Hare Krishna. Jai Kodanitai Mayapushashi ki jai. Give everybody a look. So now the poor guys, they have this is the image of what a woman should be like. And they want to be good husbands, but they've grown up objectifying women on the basis of how they look. And calling that love. So it's the programming is it's everywhere. I mean, I could spend the next 3 hours just explaining how we're programmed on every level. But that's not necessary. These examples are just some, and you can become aware in your own life of repeated thinking. If you're thinking in a certain way that doesn't help you, that's programmed. Because why would you think in a way that doesn't help you? It doesn't make any sense, does it? I'm doing this and it's bad for me. Why would I do it? Unless it's become a habit, either through practice or social conditioning. That this is what I'm supposed to do. Right? You ever have a thought that has no relevance to you at all? Like, why am I thinking of this? You can't even, it's like, I don't even want to do this, and I'm thinking of it. It's been socially programmed. That you've been told this will make you happy, so you're thinking about it, even though you know it won't make you happy, even though you know it never made you happy, still you're thinking, I should do this because it's been programmed in that this is what makes you happy. And it's been programmed in so deeply that even though you know it doesn't work, still the mind's thinking about it. Yes? That's what we're all up against. When you want to make a change, you're changing against that programming. Now, all the programming is it's just something's become a habit. And habits are done subconsciously. That's why we subconsciously, we're not even conscious when we do things or react in certain ways. Have you ever reacted in a way that you regretted? Of course. And you think, why do I do that? It's a program. For whatever reason, it's a program. So we are called conditioned souls. Conditioned means habituated to certain behaviors and thinking. Okay. So that was based on what I just read. I want to read it again. You will also find it easier to change your life in general, to make it the way it should be, not the way it happens to be. So that means our life is either going to be the way we want to make it, or the way it just is. It just happens. If you don't do anything, it'll just happen this way. You make no conscious effort to evaluate right from wrong, proper decisions. It just happens. It just unfolds. Writing this book has helped me tremendously, and I pray it will do the same for you. It has helped me because I have dared to challenge myself, dared to look deeper at my faith, commitment, desire, attachment, beliefs, vows, obstacles, anarthas, which means unwanted desires, problems, relationships, japa, work, income, family, and my life in general. And then ask myself, is this how a Krishna conscious person is supposed to live? Ooh, typo. Oh my God. This was proofed twice. It was proof. There's proof 3 times. There's proof by the editor, proof by a proofreader, and then proof by another proofreader, and still. And there's a typo on the back also. Anyone have a pen? When you're reading your own book and you find a typo every time you read it, that's like, and you find one on the back. Oh my. I didn't pay them to do it. That's what you get. When you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So I didn't even pay peanuts. Hare Krishna. Okay. Maybe I read it wrong. Let me try it again. No. Is this how a Krishna conscious person? No, there was an is was missing. In short, I dare to look deeper at what goes on both externally in my life as well as what goes on a level I have been afraid to view in a totally open and honest way for most of my devotional career. So, what I'm saying here is that if you want to make progress in any area of your life, be it materially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you have to know the problem. Because if you don't know the problem, obviously, you can't fix something if you don't know it's broken. And for a lot of people, they don't want to acknowledge what's broken because that's not easy, right? Or they don't have the capacity to introspect, or the desire, or they're afraid of what they're going to find when they look. I would introspect, but I'll find so many skeletons in the closet that I'll just become more depressed. But that is a trap, because you can't improve unless you're willing to look at what's necessary to improve. So then false ego gets in the way, because we don't want to admit maybe we have a problem. We'd rather have, just feel good about ourselves, like everything's fine, I don't have this problem. Although everyone else around you can see you have the problem. So, yes? Did you know that? That you can lie to yourself that you don't have it, but everyone else knows you do. So you can't lie to everyone because they see it in your action. And everyone else would appreciate, all your friends and relatives and family, and they would appreciate you much more if you actually dealt with your stuff. Right? So you can do it as a service to them. So being self-aware is very important. And so the key is how to be self-aware without being depressed about what you find. So here's how we do that. Number one, we have to want to, and we have to be somewhat humble and transparent. But when you find something that's bad, you should have a celebration ceremony. You shouldn't become depressed. I think this is a discovery that I was bold enough to find, and now I'm happy I found it because I can improve it. Otherwise, it's still there. If you don't find it, it's still there. Don't kid yourself that if you just ignore it, everything's fine. It's like having cancer and pretending you don't. It doesn't cure it. Right? So we tend to think like, well, if I don't notice it, it's not there. or we're just afraid to notice it. So that's the idea, and that's what it means, not just in spiritual life, but in life in general. It means a willingness to look at what's not right within us and work on it. That's progress, how we progress. Yes? Now here's the good news. The obvious good news. If you have a problem, you face it, it hurts a little bit, but you deal with it and you solve it, guess what? You don't have a problem anymore. That's good news, right? You have a problem, you don't face it, you don't deal with it, guess what? You still have a problem. And even if you don't want to recognize it, you still have a problem. And it's still affecting you. Even if you don't want to admit it, it's still affecting you because it's a problem. So just because we're not conscious of it, or even if we are and we don't work on it, it doesn't mean it goes away because we don't think about it. It definitely operates. Yes?
There's one bit where in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says, fear is born of being afraid of being a person. Mm-hmm. We're afraid of having a personal, because that means accountability, commitment. So people kind of impersonal, they don't want to accept the responsibility of what being a person is. Yeah,
it's easier to have a relationship with your phone. Doesn't require any clarity. It's hard to have a relationship with yourself. Being a person, having personal relationships, it's becoming like that more and more. That's why I think we like phones and computers. And all the things that are said about people, the criticisms, most of that you would never say in front of that person, right? But you're staring at a computer, not at that person. So you say all these things to the world. And why would you say all these things to the world? In real life, before computers, you'd say to the person, or you'd say to your coworker, but you wouldn't say to everyone in the universe and post it on Facebook. Right? So, yeah. It's very, very, very difficult for some of us to face the reality of who we are. But if we don't, the reality of who we are continues to create problems. Yes? If you have a problem that keeps reoccurring, you've been divorced 25 times, not my fault. If you have a problem that keeps reoccurring, hello. Just there's a possibility, maybe you might consider you might have something to do with that problem. That's why it keeps happening. Right? So look at your life and look at something that keeps reoccurring. That means there's some conditioning there causing it to happen, particularly if it's happening you don't want it to happen. Right? So there's the big fear of admitting it, for sure. And the other fear is, or the way we process this fear is, we just blame somebody else. That way there's nothing wrong with me. Then I can feel really good about myself, because it's not my fault. But if it is your fault, and you blame someone else, you can't fix your fault because you think it wasn't your fault. So you go home feeling really good about yourself, and you remain with your problem. Congratulations. You're not going to feel good about yourself in a few days, but at least you feel good now. That, it's not my fault. Every stupid thing I did was your fault. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done it. No, sorry, it doesn't work that way. That person may have stimulated you, of course, but you did it. Right? You can't go to court and say, well, he said something nasty to me, so I just killed him. So, he should have been the one that goes to prison, but, he can't because he's dead, but, that saves you time in court because he's dead, and so we'll see you later. No, wait a minute. You did kill him, right? Yeah. Yeah, but he made me do it. What did he say? He said to me he didn't love me. Oh, so you killed him. Oh, okay. Okay, you're off. Yeah, it's not going to happen like that. You have to take responsibility for your action. No matter what anyone else does, you're responsible for your action. There was just a case in America this lady, she must have been really tired. She went home, and she lives on the 3rd floor, and she went to the 4th floor. She was a policeman and had a gun. She went to the 4th floor, and she put her key in, and she didn't realize it wasn't her apartment. And so she opens the door, and this big African American is there because it's his apartment. And she's like, "What are you doing in my apartment?" He's like, "What are you talking? It's my apartment." And she thought he was going to attack her, and she got scared and she killed him. So, what's she going to say? I didn't really kill him? He scared me? And the judge would say, "Oh, yeah, he's a big black guy, you must have been scared. Okay, go home, no problem." No, you're responsible. Right? We're always responsible no matter what the situation. So if we blame others, we can't cure the problem because we don't admit we have it. Correct? True? True or true? Yes or yes? Good or great? In short, I dare to look deeper at what goes on both externally in my life as well as what goes on a level I have been afraid to view in a totally open and honest way for most of my devotional career. This book will challenge you to do the same. When I decided to more deeply put into practice Srila Prabhupada's teachings, I realized how theoretical my understanding of Krishna consciousness was. As I tried to live Krishna consciousness more genuinely, I saw more clearly how much I wasn't living it. In other words, sometimes we think we're living something, but we're not living it. We lie to ourselves, and there's the whole psychology of how human beings lie to themselves. And we do this all the time. Well, I'll just compromise on this, but I'll make it up tomorrow. And then what happens tomorrow? Oh, I don't really have time. I'll do it the next day. Or it's midnight and I'm hungry. Well, we'll see what there is to eat. Potato chips. I'll just have 3 potato chips. It's late. You've never eaten 3 potato chips in your life. And now you're telling yourself you're going to eat 3. So you're lying to yourself. Or an alcoholic. I'll just take a sip. Or a sexaholic pornography. I'll look at one picture. It's like that. We lie to ourselves all the time. So we can lie to ourselves about how spiritual we are. Right? Or how good we are. Or how bad we are not. So why do we do that? So we can feel good about ourselves. We're not in touch with reality. So when you start to look at yourself a little more objectively, then you'll start to see where you're falling short that maybe you have never admitted before. You'll start to see the lies, and you'll catch yourself. When you say, "I'm not like this," or "I'm like that," you'll catch yourself. Say, "Wait a minute. How can I say I'm not like this when every day I do that?" It doesn't make sense. How can I say I'm like this? Like sometimes I'll talk to my wife and I'll say, "I don't do that." And she'll say, "You just did it 10 minutes ago." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." Like I'm not aware of it because I don't believe that I do it. Because I don't believe that I'm doing it, I'm not conscious of it even though I'm doing it. Isn't it? I'm not angry, okay? You understand? I'm not angry. And you believe that. How could you believe that? It doesn't make any sense. Does it? You're yelling at someone, telling them you're not angry. I just was in Poland, we had a situation. This devotee was upset and he was saying, "I'm not angry." I mean, deep down he wasn't, but at that moment he was upset. And so sometimes it's hard to see because I don't feel like I'm angry with you. I'm just yelling at you right now. So obviously I am, but over the long run I'm not. But I don't realize that right now I am. So we're all like this. So in becoming self-realized, we have to be more conscious of what we're like. Yes. So I say, as I tried to live Krishna consciousness more genuinely, I saw more clearly how much I wasn't living it. My writing looks at this reality based on my own practice. As one devotee told me, don't teach it if you don't follow it. I didn't write about it unless I was the guinea pig. I invite you on this journey to take your Krishna consciousness deeper, become more real, genuine, introspective, honest, and above all, fixed in your devotion to Guru and Krishna. I invite you to take a deeper look at where you are at and the great potential you have. I invite you to do what's right, to make your life and your Krishna consciousness the way you know it should be, the way you really want it to be. I invite you to do what you know you should do. So here's the, I think one of the most painful situations is to know what you should do and not do it. And you have to live with yourself not doing what you know you should do. Isn't it? Or not stopping doing what you know you should stop doing. You have to live with yourself. So when you understand this, then you start to understand it's much easier to do what I should do, even though initially it's harder, because then I can live with the self that I'm satisfied, that I'm doing my best, rather than a self where I feel I'm falling short of what I could do. And when I live with this self that's falling short what I could do, the natural mechanism is to try to suppress that so I don't have to feel it. But even though we suppress it, we feel it on some level. So the pain of improving is always less than the pain of having to live short of our own integrity. Isn't it? Because we live with ourself, and if you don't like yourself, then you're going to have to live with someone you don't like, and that's very painful. Isn't it? Yes? Yeah. And it's so beautiful to live with the self you like. You set your intention, you do something, you behave, and you practice it, and you get to live with that. You get to live with the self who's actually doing what they want to do. So, what time are we supposed to go to? 7:15 or 7? Or what's the schedule? Spontaneous? What, 7:15? So that finishes the introduction. It gives you kind of a general idea. Should we have some questions now? Comments? Challenges? Debates? Clarifications? Yes?
Yeah, he talks about like programming and conditioning.
Yes.
And negative programming and negative conditioning.
Yes.
So you just kind of, it's a case of replacing like a negative programming with a positive programming.
Yes,
right?
it is. Definitely. And one of the ways you can do that is when you understand the behavior that you want and the attitudes you want, the consciousness you want, you begin practicing it. So, let's say my challenge is that I'm envious. You know, I see you and think, oh, look at you. You're so much better than me. You have so much more than me. You have good qualities that I want, I don't have. So I'm envious of you. And so the envy is real, but I want to practice something better than envy. So when the envy comes, then I think, well, I should have a better attitude towards you. I should appreciate what you're doing. Let me go up to you and appreciate. And say, I really appreciate, even if I don't entirely, but I'm trying to develop that new behavior, that new attitude. So it has to begin by practice. So I practice appreciating everyone that I'm envious of. I hear about their success, and I practice being happy. Because when I'm envious, I'm not happy when you're successful. It actually upsets me. Because I want to be more successful than you. And if I can be happy at your success, that is neutralizing my envy. Because if I were not envious, I would be happy, right? If I were not envious, I would be appreciative. So I'm trying to recondition myself to the behaviors and attitudes of a person who's not envious. And if I practice that all the time, pretty soon at a certain point, whenever there's this initial feeling of envy, it just automatically transforms into appreciation and happiness, because I've reconditioned myself. And then at another point, the envy really won't have much hold on me. I'll be okay with everybody. Everyone can be more successful than me. That's fine. I'm happy. The world needs you. I don't want to hold you back. So it's the practice of proper attitudes and behaviors consistently over a period of time that starts to condition you to be happy when someone is successful. So you hear about another devotee or another person who's doing what you want to do but is much more successful. You're like, that's great. Fantastic. I'm so happy for you. I really appreciate it. That's just the way you naturally respond, because you've conditioned yourself to do that. Not easy in the beginning, but you've heard of emotional intelligence. This came out in the late 90s. And emotional intelligence was similar to that. It was to upgrade your emotional response. So if you're feeling some toxic emotion, then you kind of analyze it and elevate your emotional state to a better state, a better response. Like, let's say I'm angry with you. A higher emotional state would be, well, let's talk. I want to understand why you just said what you said. So I elevate my anger to an emotion of more of empathy and understanding, or even compassion. So it's just, it's like Krishna says, we should be a certain way, we should think a certain way, we should act a certain way. But what does Krishna mean? He means initially you just do it. It doesn't mean you're there. This means you do it. This is how you should do it. If you were there, you would do it automatically. If you were pure, this is how you would do it. But until you're pure, this is what you have to do as a practice, to condition yourself so that naturally you will do it at a later point. So that's the practice of bhakti. It's all practice, right? You're not faking it, you're practicing. There's a difference. Faking it is you're doing it and you're not even there. You don't even want to do it. You're just showing off. Oh, just see how appreciative I am. I hope everybody sees that. That's faking it. But you're actually doing it to purify yourself. That's real. That's a practice of bhakti. That's sadhana. And someday it'll become natural. Now just imagine you had no envy. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Imagine you had no jealousy, no greed, no lust. Totally honest, totally humble. Imagine what your life would be like. It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? And so we might say, oh, but that's so difficult, that's so hard. To which I say, no, you have it backwards. It's so hard not to have to live in that consciousness of jealousy and greed and lust and all that. That's hard. That's really hard. If you can do anything, no matter how hard it is, to free yourself from that, and you eventually get there, that would be amazing. You'd be the happiest person in the universe. No lust, no greed, no envy, no jealousy, no resentment, just compassion, empathy, appreciation, support. Wow. Could you imagine what that would be like? We can't even imagine what that would be like, but you could try. Not trying to control anything you can't control, not trying to change people, accepting yourself, accepting others as they are. We talk about stress reduction. Yeah. What's your stress? You're trying to change everybody. Trying to change everything. Just trying to fix people. Stop trying to fix people. Stop trying to change things you can't change. No stress. It's like, this is just how it is. Accept your karma. No stress. I hate my karma. I don't like it. I'm going to fight my karma. That's a crazy idea. I was just reading this morning, and it's so true. Prabhupada said, he said, why is it that someone's working hard and making millions and millions of pounds, and someone's working hard and no matter how hard they work, they can't get out of the poverty level? So why is that? He said, it's destiny. It's going to be that way. It's not going to change. It doesn't matter that poor man works harder. It's not going to change much. He's never going to be a multimillionaire if it's not in his karma. And so, we have to learn these things. You may never be a certain way. You can be the best you can be, but you may never be like Prabhupada Prabhu in certain ways, or vice versa. And if we can accept that, it's like, oh, okay, this is my lot. Sometimes people look at me and they say, you seem so detached, you don't care. And I say, yeah, because when I care, I don't care. I usually get about the same result anyway. If it's so much as is already programmed in the stars. So I could drive myself crazy caring about certain things and trying to make them happen. Right? I had a friend, he was trying to get married, and he was traveling all over America trying to find a wife. And I was trying not to get married, and I found a wife. Sometimes life is like that, isn't it? Where, you meet somebody, like I give a lecture, and one of you says, that was a good lecture. My sister's like next door neighbors to Oprah, and I think we can get you on. And it's like, okay, all right, yeah, whatever, Everybody tells me that every day. Then I get the call, we want to book you, and all of a sudden I go on the show and people like me. And how does that happen? There's got to be some karma, astrology will say, yeah, this month, this star, that star, fame, fortune, it's all there, Or it's not there. I go on Oprah and it's like, sizzle, have the big chance. It's like nothing happened. Nobody liked it. Yeah, it's not, They did Trump's astrology, and they said that he's got winning astrology. Hillary did not have winning astrology. Even though everyone in America thought Hillary was going to win. If you look at her astrology, she didn't have it. And Trump had it. And when Trump won, people could not believe it. And these Indian astrologers would go, no, it's right here. He's like making these horrible presentations. The whole presentation is just... he couldn't fulfill, and he's just, most of the time he's putting people down. It's like, how could you win an election? But that's his karma. So sometimes, you see in your life, you're trying to do something, you're really working hard, but you just don't have the brain for it or the skills for it, and it doesn't happen. And then you have to accept it. It's not me. I'm not going to be the CEO of some big startup that's going to, put Google out of business. It's not my karma. And if it is my karma, it'll happen even if I don't even mean it to happen. I'll just get in. I have this idea for this product. 10 years later, just like Google's, gone bankrupt and you've like ruled the universe, and it wasn't even your plan. I think Bill Gates, that was his vision when he was like 19. Yeah, we're going to like dominate the universe of computers. It just happened. Karma. Not that he didn't work on it. Smart. Yes. Hare Krishna. So, if we can accept that, we work hard, we try to do our best, if we can accept that, right? What do they have? Britain Has Talent, is that the show? What do they call it? Britain Has Talent. We have American Idol. You know Britain Has Talent?
Britain's Got Talent.
Britain's Got Talent. Right?
Britain Had Talent.
What?
It should be Britain Had Talent.
Or Britain Had Talent. No, they still have. So, what's your name? My name's, John Smith. What do you do? I'm a bricklayer. No, they had one guy in America. I said, what do you do? He says, like, I'm homeless. I live in a park. And then he gets up there and he sings and it's like, ah! Everybody's crying, standing ovation. Not like everyone can sing like that. It's just in this life, you can sing nicely, but not like that. Not going to make people cry. You're not going to get standing ovations. Isn't it? Or even you sing like that, you may never be popular because it's not in the star, and you sing like Bob Dylan, and you become famous. And you can't even really sing that well. So these are things we have to accept. We have to learn to accept. We have our karma. We try to do our best, but if we can do these things, then our life is amazing because there's no anxiety. There's nothing we're trying to change that we can't change. We're doing our best and accepting the results. So if we can live that way, practice living that way, then it's fantastic. Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering about the ability to change. Is it, if it's not determined by your karma, and then it seems things are determined by your karma, so somebody can be really sincere, but he has really bad karma about changing things.
Yeah.
So he's trying like anything, but he always seems to be
Then
just the same.
Then there's Krishna. Then there's Krishna's influence who can also interfere with that, and also you're creating new karma. So that's there also. So you have karma from your last life, and you have karma. So if you look at your astrology, that's the karma you had when you were born. But now you're 50 odd years old, so you had 50 years of new karma. That doesn't show up on your chart. So you're also adding to the equation. And then there's the Krishna factor. If Krishna wants something to happen and you can be an instrument, it could happen. And so it doesn't hurt to desire. He can extend your life, he can give you resources and abilities that maybe normally you wouldn't have. But still, you do your best, and then whatever happens is you accept that. I'm not saying lay back and do nothing. You do your best. But if you can be accepting, you'll be very peaceful and very happy then. Well, I can give you some good advice. If you don't think like this and you get married, you're going to go through hell. Because you have to accept that person the way they are. Because here's the secret, that's the way they are. And they're probably going to be that way their whole life. And there's probably very little you can do about it. So love them the way they are or run away, but don't try to change them. People will change. Sometimes better, for the better, sometimes for the worse, but not because you're changing them so much as they'll come to that point in their life when they'll realize they need to change. But if you can accept them as they are, then it makes your life easier. Yes? They're not good or bad, it's just that's how they are. It may be bad for you, but not bad for everyone. Now, a further answer to your question, someone may say, well, what if it's my karma, then why do I need to make this endeavor? Well, whatever your karma is, you can endeavor to control yourself. That's for sure. And make your life as best you can, and make your life in accordance with Krishna's teachings and Guru's teachings. So that's not dependent on karma to do that. That's dependent on your effort. Right? So your spiritual life is not dependent on your karma. It's dependent on your effort and the mercy that you get, the kripa, the mercy you get from Guru and Krishna. Right? That's why we say, there are many prayers in the Vedas that say things like, if you have a Guru and you satisfy your Guru, then even if you're blind, you can see stars in the sky. Even if you're lame, you can cross a mountain. And even if you're dumb, meaning you can't speak, you could recite poetry. Because that power is coming to you. Beyond your karma. It has nothing to do with karma. It's a divine gift. Because you're engaging yourself in service to God. And He's giving that to you. So that's way beyond your karma. And the opposite is true. My spiritual master Srila Prabhupada said, according to his karma, he was meant to be one of the richest men in India. Did you know that? Yeah, he said, the astrologer said, I am meant to be one of the richest men in India, but he said, my Guru Maharaj did not want that to happen. And so he said, my Guru Maharaj, by his potency, neutralized that karma, and my business failed, and I was forced to take up the life of a saint and spread Krishna consciousness around the world. And had my business succeeded, that may not have happened. So he said, my spiritual master. He said, my spiritual master. It was his mercy that my business failed. And that forced me to take this message out to the world. Because once the business failed, it was like, okay, that's the signaling that it's time to leave. He was older. It's time to leave and go. So that can happen. So you could get something better, something worse. Then, Then he was destined to be one of the wealthiest people in the world, and the business failed, and he went and he moved in to his spiritual master's, one of his spiritual master's temples. And all he owned was 2 dhotis and 2 kurtas, and they had holes in them. And sleeping in a simple room with some other men. The man who was destined to be the richest man in the world now was living basically in poverty. Who came to America with nothing and left with 10,000 disciples, 108 temples, and so much that Krishna gave. So that's up to him. Yes? So the moral of the story is, do your best and accept what happens. And you'll be okay. You'll be more than okay. You'll be super okay. Anything else? Yes.
If you're managing and the people aren't doing things the right way, and it's because they are the way they are.
It could be because it's the way you are also. We have to think from both sides. If people aren't doing what they're doing and it's the way they are, do we accept it? Yes and no. But they may not be suited for a particular service. So that may be one way of looking at it. I may not be inspiring them. You know, sometimes I'll ask somebody to do something, and it's a task maybe that I feel is simple enough that they should know how to do it, but they don't do it well. But they might be this incredible artist, but this practical task, they don't know how to do it. And so rather they get frustrated, I think maybe this is just the wrong thing. Because to me, this is simple. They should know how to do it. But it's not their skill. We all have different skill sets. Right? I was just reading this book about Shyam Sundar. And Shyam Sundar was serving Prabhupada, and he went to India in 1970 in September. 1 billion people. And he has this business sense. So he's there as a monk, but his business sense says, oh my God, there's 1 million people. And there's all these products in America they don't have in India. This is like an amazing opportunity. You could become so wealthy. I never ever thought that way because I'm not a business person. I don't think like that. So what's common sense to him is, there's 1 million people, just, make a bag of Lay's potato chips. It's not in India, and make some, deodorant or something they don't use that they need, and it's an incredible company. I never thought like that. I was in India then. A few years later, I never thought that way. Because we all have different abilities. We think differently. So that's important. Because this person who's not doing this job well could be an expert in something else. Or, as I said, maybe you don't know how to deal with them, so you're not inspiring them. You're just giving them a headache. That's possible also. We had an experience in our schools where young boys would go to these boarding schools, and some boys would do really well and some would not. And the boys that did really well were the ones that wanted to be there. They liked it. They liked that kind of school. But the ones who didn't like it, they shouldn't have been there. They weren't bad boys, it's just that wasn't the school for them. And that took us a while to understand, because we thought, well, everyone should adapt to it. But the nature of the school was that not everybody could adapt to that model, because it was a very disciplined model. It required extreme amounts of discipline and being very a studious type. And not all the boys were meant for that. And so later on we realized, that was the mistake. We put all the boys in the school instead of the boys that could adapt well to the school, and had a different kind of school for the other boys. So there's nothing wrong with the other boys. It just seemed like there was. Because you're trying to put a square in a round hole, in a hole, a circle, round hole, A square peg in a round hole. Got it, Okay, I think time's up. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:30. Same time, same station. That's 7:30 Scotland time, which is UK time, which is Greenwich Mean Time, right? GMT? Time can be mean. Greenwich Mean Time. Yeah, time takes away your life. Yeah, so it's definitely mean. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare
Srila
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
His Grace Mahatma Prabhu.